to our monthly meeting, April 16th, 2024. We have a quorum present tonight. Councilman Buckley will not be here. I talked with him this morning, and I think he has a new baby girl. So he called me, and I answered the phone. I could hear the baby crying in the background, so I knew what he was going to tell me. I just told him congratulations, and his wife is okay, the baby's okay, and I think they will be at home, so we'll just see him next month. Okay, all right. We'll move right along. We're going to ask, Pastor Thelma Daniels, Faithful and True Fellowship, to come to give us prayer tonight. And we're going to ask Mr. Eddie Lowry to do our pledge for both flags.
Lord, I thank you that you continue to bless and keep the city of Cleveland. I now lift up our mayor, city council members, and our local leaders. I ask that you grant them wisdom, integrity, and insight to make plans and decisions that will cause every aspect of our community to become better. I pray for wisdom and understanding to pass no laws or ordinances that would violate the Constitution of the United States or that of the state of Texas. I pray the principles of the Word of God be held in high esteem and set as a guideline of instructions to establish a thriving and blessed metroplex. May the city of Cleveland prosper in the areas of commerce and social systems and activities. Lord, provide them with a vision for the future and a working plan to meet the needs of our ever-growing population. Lord, your word says you will command a blessing where there is unity. So I thank you that you impart a spirit of unity to each and every city leader, that they will have singleness of purpose and vision and will be flexible and find points of agreement. May each leader govern with compassion and honesty, so our city will be a safe, prosperous, and welcoming community. A place where families will want to raise their children because we have safe and excellent school systems. A city where new businesses are welcome and created. A city where the well-being of its residents is considered a top priority. A township where the houses of worship are deemed necessary and essential for the growth and well-being of its citizens. I thank you, Lord, for the commanded blessing on our city and upon our city leaders. I pray and make these requests tonight in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
Let us face the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, I have two proclamations. Okay, Brother Lance, I want to read this to you.
What a blessing.
Brother, thank you for all that you do, man. Thank you, sir. Good man. Good to know you, sir. Whereas, in 1775, the Continental Congress asked the colonies to join in prayer, seeking wisdom as they faced the responsibility and opportunity of building a new nation. And 3 decades later, President John Adams declared a day of solemn humiliation, fasting, and prayer. And whereas in 1952, President Harry Truman signed a joint resolution of the U.S. Congress establishing a floating annual Nation Day of Prayer, and whereas in 1988, President Ronald Reagan set the date of annual prayer day as the first Thursday of May, and whereas throughout history, Americans have turned to prayer and reflection during times of strength and weakness, and in moments of joy and despair, seeking comfort, giving thanks, asking for guidance and grace, and today continuing the tradition of our forefathers by acknowledging the power of prayer in our lives and cherishing our right to pray freely. And whereas we are asked again this year to join together on Thursday, May 2nd, 2024, the 73rd National Day of Prayer, as our nation comes together, and let us pray for our unity and righteousness for this great state and nation and all mankind. Now therefore, I, Mayor Danny Lee, City of Cleveland, Texas, do hereby proclaim May 2nd, 2024 as National Day of Prayer. Looking
Thank
forward
you
to
so
seeing
much.
you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our whole family's gonna do that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
In unity. You need to read it? Yeah.
Okay, this is a proclamation for the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Let me read it for you. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time requiring police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters depend upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Cleveland Police Fire Communications Center, and whereas police safety dispatchers are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, and whereas public safety dispatchers are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters, monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety dispatchers of the Cleveland Police Department have contributed substantially to the public safety's mission, apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of his or her job in the past year. Therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Danny Lee of the City of Cleveland proclaim April 14th through the 20th of 2024 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Cleveland, Texas, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. And witness hereof, the Mayor Danny Lee. So we want to present this to the chief.
Yes, the dispatch supervisor's been ill this week, but I will say that there's 8 ladies that work in that office 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it's 2 part-timers. But they're there every day, and I always tell them that they can make a bad situation worse. But these ladies are very diligent in what they do, and they always make the situation better by dispatching first responders. Thank you, Mayor. I'll make sure that they get it.
Now I have another one here. Mr. William Bullard. Oh, okay. This one of you guys?
All right.
Oh, okay.
So,
Come on here close, man.
Come on over here.
Right here. Okay. City of Cleveland, this certificate is awarded to William Bullard in recognition of his outstanding performance, hard work, and dedication to the city of Cleveland. March 2024, Employee of the Month, dated on this day, the 16th of April, 2024. William, thank you very much. Man, we appreciate the job that you do. Continue to do what you do for us. Man. Appreciate you. Scott?
Yes. Thank you very much. Here's your, and of course, the certificate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay, appreciate you.
Okay, we have two more. Yeah, I'm gonna recognize you. Okay, we also have a 10-year anniversary for Miss Erica Fleming, Police Department, and she's not here. And I just wanted to recognize her. 10 years of service. And also have a 5-year anniversary for Mr. Brian Sykes. And we want to thank him for all of his work that he does for the city. Okay, and we got Mr. Bullock, got him out of the way. Okay, now we'll go on to item number 8, public comments. Any person with city-related business may speak to council in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. City council may not discuss or vote on any matter raised in public comments unless it's specifically on the agenda. To speak during a public meeting, you must be recognized by the presiding officer. Okay, and so far I have one person signed up, Mr. Donald Alton, 127 North St. Jacinto, Cleveland. Mr. Halton.
Commission Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I appreciate your time tonight. I'm here on behalf of my client Alfredo Godinez. He purchased a piece of property out in Tarkington almost 11 years ago in June of 2013. And it's on the way out 787, just before you get to Dock Tower Road. In December of 2015, Cleveland City Council annexed that portion of 787. Now they annexed a total of 4 people's properties there. Mr. Godinez is to the far west, and at that time, Clay Dean owned the park right there at the corner of Dock Tower Road and 787, and then there's 2 more in between. So that piece of property was annexed, and under the government code and under the statutes, they have 4.5 years to provide some governmental service. Here we are now, from that time, we're on 8.5 years. Mr. Godinez still does not have any city water, does not have city sewer, does not have any street lights, doesn't have anything that the city has provided. The fire department doesn't go out there. He relies on Tarkington Volunteer Fire Department. The police department doesn't patrol out there. He relies on the constables from Precinct 5 or Precinct 6, who kind of overlap out there, or Liberty County Sheriff's Department. Now, it's well past time for him to be de-annexed. It's my understanding that there's already some petitions on there. The local government code does provide for, under section 141, under section 43, that there is some areas there where you can petition for that, but it requires a majority of the people of an area that's been annexed. What is that area? Well, my concern would be the area right there with those 4 people, 2 of them represented here tonight. This council can act on this. Dayton City Council acted on a very similar agenda or non-agenda item earlier this year in January, based upon the same thing. Mr. Godinez has been more than patient over the last few years. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years since he has been annexed, he's paid a total of $7,165.62 in property taxes to the city of Cleveland and has received zero benefit from it. This council owes Mr. Godinez and owes his neighbors a duty to de-annex that property. He didn't speak up, he didn't complain whenever it was annexed, with the understanding that it would be provided in the basic services that would come with annexation. He hasn't gotten those, and we're asking this council, if you can't do it today without placing it on the agenda, to place it on the agenda for the next meeting and to make right what's been wrong in this situation. Thank you very much, and I know you'll do the right thing.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Okay, that's the only one. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, item number 9, reports from members of council regarding attendance of boards, commissioners, social functions, conventions, workshops, ceremonial events, press conferences, candidate forums, and similar events where no formal action was taken, and discussion of public business incidental to the event. So I'm going to start on the end. Mr. Buckley's not here. Mr. Ward, you have a comment tonight?
No comment tonight, sir.
Okay. Mr. Lowry? No comment tonight. Okay. Ms. Davis? Mr. Terrell?
Yes. Last two council meetings, we had a citizen forum before us, Mr. Scott. And he talked about the railroad crossing. And I'm not sure what his complaint was. There's a certain part of the responsibility falls to the railroad company. TNN, Santa Fe River. But I wish he was here tonight, because I'd like for him to expound on that. Like even here in our own city, can you go up to the road there before you get to the railroad? It's about like a road. I don't know what the law, what the ordinance, the trains that go through here, are they supposed to get so many feet from that rail to make sure it's drivable? And if it isn't, I'd like to ask that our city manager and mayor, in behalf of Mr. Scott, write a letter to the railroad people, see if we can have a meeting with them, find out why they're not doing it, or if it's not them, if it's the cities, why we're not doing it. That's all I have. I just want to bring that up. Thank you.
Scott?
Just a couple of things. I just want to remind everybody that we do have an election coming up May 4th. And so early voting starts Monday. And so we do have 3 of the candidates here tonight with us. Brett McWaters and Rachel Hall and Sophia Johnson are all here. And so get out and vote. That's your right to be able to do that as a citizen. And so I want to encourage everybody to do early voting or voting on election day. Also, I want to let everybody know that if you have been out 321 on the east side of town, you may have seen a bunch of 18-wheelers the last couple of days lining up and a lot of equipment. And so we have been informed that Kinder Morgan is doing some repair work on that gas pipeline going through basically between Grand Oaks and the new administration building. There's a pipeline there, and so they will be doing some work and repair on the pipeline there, so you're seeing a lot of activity. We are aware of that. You may smell some gas in that area during that work, so just be knowledgeable that that's happening. Of course, our first responders they're ready. And if anything happens, of course, we're hoping nothing does, and they are definitely using all the safety and techniques that they need. But I do want to make sure everybody's aware, because there's a lot of trucks over there, a lot of equipment, a lot of pallets going down for protection. And they're supposed to be starting the work tomorrow. And so there's a good chance you may start selling some gas in that area while they're doing that work. And so I want to make sure and let that know. And then also just wanted to inform the council that as of yesterday, or actually officially today, the dispatch that we've been talking about, the transfer from the city of Cleveland to Liberty County dispatching services for Plum Grove and Tarkington officially began this morning. They are having some issues, and we're trying to work out those kinks at this time, but that transition has been made as of this morning. And so I just want to make sure that the council be aware of that as well.
I just want to comment on the railroad crossing at the corner of Odell McDuffie and Vine Street. That's approximately 2 blocks from my house. I pass that crossing daily. Every time that I cross it, it makes me angry. And the railroad has been contacted by the city staff, people in the community, over and over and over and over. So it's not like that, you know, we're just gonna sit there and just let it not be fixed. But, you know, I received a letter, a notice back in December that they were in the process of fixing the crossing, but it still hasn't been fixed. They have been contacted over and over, as I said, by the city staff, citizens in the community. I gave them the number that you can call. So the ball is in the railroad's court on that. And I try my best to explain to a lot of people, you know, we can't control what the railroad does. We can't control what TxDOT does. You know, all we can do is plead our case. You know, we need this fixed. There's a lot of TxDOT roads that need to be fixed, and we take the heat for it, but we can't fix it. So we're fighting that battle daily, you know, with those entities. So I guess that's all I have. We have our audit presentation later on, and I kind of got a pre-summary of it, and we'll get the real summary here later. But okay, now we are going to move on to public hearing to consider, I think it's 2 locations. The first one is 600 Easy Street. Okay, Danielle. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open here. So that'll be 600 Easy Street.
Yes, this property is right behind, on the 7-Eleven at 600 Easy Street. It is currently zoned as R1 single family and manufactured home district. We had a zoning commission meeting held on February 21st where it was recommended for them to go ahead and grant it to be rezoned as high density for that area. So at this time, if there's anybody that wants to speak on behalf of that property, any questions or concerns I may have, that is what this time is for.
I have a question.
Yes.
I actually have spoken with some of the apartment complexes in the nearby area that are mobile. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, that'll be Miss Rachel Hall.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So my question, I've actually spoken with some local apartments in that area that are multi-family zoned that way, neighboring, right? And I know at least one talked about some issues they're already having with flooding and that it's ruining their parking lot. They've had to rebuild it, redo it, etc. multiple times because of some development that happened in the Kirbywood subdivision on the other side. So my question is really only, has there been like a land study or anything involved in before turning it into residential? Is it going to cause issues for neighboring apartment complexes and people already there? And what proactive means have been researched for that? That's my only question.
Okay, I could go ahead and respond to that. We do require whenever we have our pre-development meetings. We don't respond?
No, we can respond during the agenda item.
On the agenda.
Oh, okay.
On the agenda.
I'll respond to the agenda item.
Yeah, we'll respond on the specific item once it's discussed on the agenda. Okay, is there anyone else want to speak on 600 Easy Street? Okay, I will close the public hearing on 600 Easy Street. Okay, now item number 11, I will open the public hearing on 205 Charles Street, currently zoned as R1 single family, would like to be rezoned as R2. Two-family recommendation for approval has been provided by the zoning commission board. Okay, Danielle. Go ahead.
Yeah, same thing, this one is currently zoned as R1, as Mayor did speak. Our zoning commission board did recommend the approval for it to go ahead and be rezoned as R2. So if anybody would like to speak or have any questions on behalf of that property, you can do so at this time. We're good.
Okay, 205 Charles Street. Okay. Okay, that'll be all. We'll go ahead and close the hearing on 205 Charles Street. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll not close the hearing, public hearing. Okay, now we'll move right along to our consent agendas. Okay, all consent agenda items are considered routine by city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussions on these items unless a council member requests that the item be removed and considered separate. Okay, the consent agenda will be item 12 through 16. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, 12 and 16.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Ward. I have a second by Ms. Davis. Do I have any question or comment on 12 through 16? Okay. I have a motion and a second. Okay, now all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 4-0 to approve the consent agenda. Okay, now we move right along to item number 17. Zoning, okay, 600 Easy Street. Currently is zoned as R1 single family and MH manufactured home district would like to be rezoned as a high density district. Recommendation for approval has been provided by the zoning commission board.
Good afternoon. I am here on behalf of 600 Easy Street. I know one of the questions was regarding the drainage, water, and sewer in that area. When we conduct our development meetings with the developers, it is told to them that we conduct a feasibility study. The feasibility study does cover the water, sewer, and drainage, as well as their plans do account for detention that must be required for that area. So that is something that is accounted for ahead of time before the development begins. I do have Mr. Lambert here as well. If there's any further questions that y'all may have, their plans and everything are in y'all's packets. Yeah.
At this point, the plans have all just been conceptual. They would have to go into full construction documents, and at that time, the city engineer would review and make sure that all the water, sewer, and all the drainage meets the criteria that is set for that, and all that would be held within, all the drainage would be held within the proper control, where it wouldn't allow more than was already being exported out of the plant.
So we are requesting if we can go ahead and move forward with having the area rezoned as high density. No, we're gonna have it rezoned from R1 MH to have it zoned as high density.
I'd like to make the motion to have it rezoned as a high density district.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Davis.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Ward. Do I have any questions, comments? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Okay. Now we'll go to item B. That's 205 Charles Street. Currently zoned as R1, single family, would like to be zoned as R2. Two-family recommendation for approval has been provided by the zoning commission board.
Correct. So same thing with this one, we are requesting for it to be rezoned to R2. I do have Mr. Contreras here as well, if y'all have any questions regarding any of the plans that have been submitted in the packet today. Those have been reviewed by the zoning board, as well as prior plans have been reviewed as well. Same thing with this one, we will bring them in for a development meeting once we get all the final construction plans and drawings for this property, and then we will review all those details. But at this time, we are requesting for the rezoning on this property.
I'll make a motion for 205 Charles Street to be rezoned to zone 2 as 5B.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Davis, I have a second by Mr. Ward. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Danielle. Okay, now we're gonna, item number 18, Mr. Mike Brooks. And Mr. Brooks is a CPA auditor, partner of BW and C Public Accounts.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, Council, for having me tonight. My name is Mike Brooks, audit partner with Brooks Watson and Company CPAs. I will be presenting you with your annual comprehensive financial report.
Raise your mic up a little bit.
I'll be presenting you with your annual comprehensive financial report for the year ended September 30th, 2023. This report is quite lengthy. There's a lot of information. It's well over 100 pages. So I have condensed it into a summary presentation. That presentation is going to touch on some of the more important numbers and statements within your report. But if you have questions, I'll be happy to go over it in more detail if you'd like. Okay. So first, just briefly, I want to go over the audit process. The audit's broken into 3 general phases. The first is the planning and risk assessment phase. So this is on the front end. We typically perform this prior to year end. We're coming out, we're talking to finance, talking to the various department heads, trying to find out what's been going on during the year. Any new departments, projects, debt, any new hires, anything that we need to focus our audit procedures on, we're evaluating at that time. We're also completing our internal control review and evaluating those, doing some preliminary testing. We walk away from that process with our preliminary audit plan, which rolls into the next stage, is the bulk of what we do. This is the year-end field work. So after the books have been closed for the year, we are coming out, we are reviewing and auditing all material assets, liabilities, revenues, and expenditures across all funds citywide. So if any transaction does meet our materiality threshold, we are auditing it in some form or fashion. The final stage is the wrap-up. It's the conclusion and reporting. So if we have any journal entries that are provided to the city, the preparation of the comprehensive financial report in front of you, and the presentation and acceptance of that report by council. Next, I just want to point out the components of your report since it is quite large. The first section we have is the introductory section, then followed by the financial section, which includes your auditor's opinion, management's discussion and analysis, your financial statements, notes to the financial statements, then the supplementary information, and followed finally by the statistical section. Next, I do want to point out that the city has issued prepared and issued a comprehensive annual financial report. The comprehensive portion is optional. Not all cities are capable or willing to prepare this report. There is quite a lot of additional information within this report above the bare minimum. That is very useful for the reader and helpful for the government. So if you are so inclined to read this report all the way through, you'll get a lot of value out of it. And so that should be commended. The city, in addition to preparing this report, it is submitted to the GFOA, who does evaluate this report. And if the city does qualify, the city may receive an award, the Certificate of Achievement for Financial Excellence in Reporting. The city has submitted this report, the city's comprehensive annual financial report, for 4 consecutive years and received the award for the previous 3, and we fully anticipate this report will also receive that award. Next is what we consider to be the most important part of your annual comprehensive financial report. It is our independent auditor's opinion. This can have several possible outcomes, but the outcome you want is an unmodified audit opinion. Proud to say that we have issued an unmodified audit opinion on the city's financials. So this is the highest level of assurance that we can give that these financial statements are free of any material misstatement and all footnotes are disclosed. All right, next, just going to touch on several financial highlights. As of the end of the year, total citywide assets exceeded total liabilities by approximately $45.9 million. This was an increase over the prior year of $5.9 million. Your governmental funds, which include your general fund, debt service, capital projects, and special revenue funds, had an ending fund balance of just over $10 million. This was a decrease of about $1.5 million from the prior year. Your unassigned fund balance in your general fund, meaning there was no restrictions on it, could be spent at the city's leisure. It had a total year-end fund balance of $7.2 million. This equated to about 61% of your annual general fund expenditures. And the city's net pension liability, the TMRS liability, totaled $2.9 million as of the end of the year. All right, next. Next is a summary of the city's governmental revenue. So this is total governmental funds, which include your general fund, debt service, and capital projects, and special revenue funds. It does not include your water and sewer. Total governmental revenues were $13.4 million. This was an overall decrease of about $145,000. This decrease was specifically related to a lack of grant funding, not a lack of, but non-recurring grant funding that occurred in 22 that did not occur in 2023, so that number was down. Other revenue items include your property taxes, which totaled $4.9 million, at an increase of about $800,000. Your sales taxes totaled $4.4 million, increased just a little over $8,000. Your franchise and local taxes totaled $715,000, had an increase of about $110,000. Next is a summary of your governmental activities expenses, consolidated. Total expenses were $11.4 million, which was an overall increase of about $917,000. Three largest being public safety expenses, which totaled $5.6 million. This had an increase of $637,000. Your general government expenses totaled $1.7 million, had an increase of $250,000. And your public works expenses totaled $831,000, had a decrease of $245,000. Next is a summary of your governmental funds, revenues, expenditures, and changes in the fund balance. The numbers I want to point out are your increase or decrease within those funds. So did you add or take away from fund balance for the year? Your general fund had a decrease in fund balance of about $1 million this year. That was planned. It was actually getting better than planned. Had to do with timing of revenues coming in 22 and expenditures occurring in 23, which resulted in that deficit. Debt service fund had an increase of $225,000, and your capital projects fund had a decrease of about $1 million. And decreases in capital projects fund are very common. Capital projects normally have significant revenue come in, maybe debt issuance or grant one year, and then over the course of the project, you'll see a recurring deficit. But overall, the changes were all in line with expectations. next number I want to point out is your ending fund balance for your general fund. So this is important because the city wants to monitor this balance and make sure you have an adequate unassigned fund balance reserve in case of emergencies or future unplanned expenditures. As of the end of the year, the ending fund balance was $7.3 million. And we're going to talk about the unassigned portion on the next page. So within that fund balance, the unassigned portion totaled $7.2 million. The city has a policy to maintain at least an unassigned fund balance that equates to 25% of your annual general fund expenditures. So that's a city policy. So you really don't want to, you want to monitor that, make sure you don't go under that. As of the end of the year, the unassigned portion equated to about 61% of your annual general fund expenditures. And you see a 4-year comparison there. The city's been in pretty good shape over the last 4 years, and the current year is also in a good position. So, all right. Next is a budget to actual for your general fund. The column on the left is your final budgeted numbers. This is after any amendments that were made during the year, and the center column are your actual results for the year. The column on the right is either your positive or negative budget variance. So the city did have a positive revenue variance of $861,000. So that means you received more than you anticipated for the year. Your expenditures had a positive variance of $983,000, but you also spent less than you planned on. So when you had a final budgeted deficit, so you anticipated having a decrease of $3 million, you actually only had a decrease of $1 million. We touched on that a little bit due to the timing of some expenditures. But overall, that equated to a positive budget variance of just over 2. So from a budgetary perspective, it was a healthy fiscal year. Next is a summary statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in your water and sewer fund net position. This fund does differ from your governmental funds. It should be self-supporting. So it should have a rate that's set at an appropriate level, and that level should fund operations, debt service, and capital improvements. So if these funds are losing money over time, it's typically an indication of some sort of rate or operational issue that you want to pay attention to. So the number I'm going to point out here is your increase or decrease in your net position, in your operating net position. So the city did have an increase in that position of $604,000 in your water and sewer fund. So everything looked great. We did not see any operational or rate issues, and the city has not had any history of recurring losses. So. Okay. In addition to my report, there are 2 required auditor letters to give us an opportunity to discuss any issues with the completion of the audit and also provide our journal entries. We did not have any issue with the completion of the audit. The city did extremely well for us, and we were very happy at the cooperation on the city side. That's not always the case. So the city's employees and staff aren't moving in the same direction we are, and all working towards the same goal. Audits typically take a long time, and they're not near as clean. So we appreciate the city's cooperation. So that does conclude my presentation. Like I said, if you have any questions or want to touch on anything specific, I'd be happy to do so.
Do you have any other questions or comments? Well, I'd just like to say that thank you, Mike. As I told you earlier, it seemed like this year went by real fast. Okay, but you noted when you first started speaking about a lot of cities choose to not make this available. But we have if anyone, any citizen, would like to go in depth on our financial report, we have copies of these. Everything is public records. So if there's any issues, with how we're spending the money, the way we're doing business, and we have it all right here, and we have people available here to explain it to you. So we're just trying to be as transparent as we can. And, Mike, I appreciate what you do, and you told me that the city is doing better financially this year than we did last year. I mean, that's a plus. So we're looking forward to 2024. So thank you once again. Okay.
And Mayor, I just want to recognize Pam and Tiffany for their hard work and putting this audit together, doing the documentation and working on this. They've done a great job, and so they need to be commended for the work they've done on this as well, to make sure that this information is provided and up to date and accurate.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. See you next year. Okay. Item number 19, fiscal year 23 capital carryovers and fiscal year 24 budget amendment. Ms. Pat.
Good evening. Now that the fiscal year 23 budget has been officially accepted, it's common practice to do the end of year capital carryovers. What this is prior year expenses that were not completed by September 30th, and this is the money that was remaining in the budget for those projects. We will now carry them over to the fiscal year 24 budget so that those projects can be completed. And we also have, that's the carryovers, and then we also have a regular current year amendment, and it includes the well number 3, council gave direction to utilize fund balance to repair the water well, and the exhibit B has the information for that amendment, as well as the amendment for the monies allocated for the Berkeley Frontage water line.
No, we have to approve the budget.
Both of them at the same time. Okay. Do I have a motion? Second. Item number 19, 2023 capital carryovers, fiscal year 24 budget amendment.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve fiscal year 23 capital carryovers and fiscal year 24 budget amendments.
Thank you. Second. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Lowry, second by Mr. Ward. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Pam. Well, we got to meet you again. Okay, item number 20, TERS 1 reimbursement.
Yes, this is a request from the first one developer for a reimbursement for invoices for development that has been completed in that subdivision. The invoices have been reviewed by staff and approved by the TERS board. We just need council's approval to process the payment.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve number 20, TERS number 1 reimbursement.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Lowry, second by Mr. Ward. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Okay, item number 21. Ordinance abandoning portions of East Waco and South Travis Streets and retaining a utility easement.
Good evening. So this is for the ordinance on abandoning portions of East Waco and South Travis Streets and retaining the utility easement. I do believe that this is a potential for an increase in property tax revenue once the remodel is complete, the appraised value goes up. I do also have representatives for Cleveland Square Apartments should there be any questions on their development. So we are just asking if we can go ahead and abandon those portions for them to continue on their development.
And if you remember, this was an those concerns, if that is still a concern to the council, or any other concern that you might have on these amendments.
I'd like to know how wide that street's gonna be after the amendment.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jason Davis. I'm an attorney for the developer. We compared the survey plats to be over 35 feet along, along Travis Street. That's the main street along the railroad that I was talking about. Basically, we're just abandoning the portion that's the all-street parking that was created by the 1935 plat, which created Cox Edition. And so these are all like downtown plats back in the day. I have a copy of the plat if you want to see it. So all this is basically exclusive parking for the residents of the parking, just like it is for the Sanctuary Church, which is just, I guess, kind of north of us. And you'll see how they have some nice paved parking in front of their church. We're just trying to do that same concept for our residents. We're the future owners of the property. And we have to comply with USDA, or ADA requirements, and then they have to update some of the, disability locations and add certain parking, which hasn't been done in a number of years. So basically bringing up the parking requirements of the property on the paving side, and then between the sidewalk and then, I guess you call the building and property line, that's to be just kind of do green space grass, just like it looks today. But 19 or so feet of it's really parking. And then you got the sidewalk on.
So my understanding is you're gonna create a parking area there on the Travis Avenue side?
We're improving the existing parking area that was established back in 1935.
Will you improve that lot next to it, to the corner?
Yeah, all the property that we're acquiring, yes.
Yes, sir. We're adding 7 total parking spaces on either side of the property. So we'll be taking the parking to the property line on either side. If I understood your question correctly.
That's all I have.
So basically, you're asking for, to make enough parking for your complex by using the city street for parking. Is that what you're really asking?
Well, we're following with the existing plat created in 1935, just that this area hasn't been maintained in a number of years. And for us to come in and there's tax subject to U.S. money that can associated with this housing project. So there's the United States Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. That's who's only maintained. That's the part limiter of this project since 1970, since the original development.
This apartment complex has no parking on site. All the parking is off site on the off-road parking.
Yeah, it's all what they call off-street parking.
Which is what they're now asking for us to abandon the off-road parking that feeds the apartment complex and have that be theirs.
So we will maintain and own it because it hasn't been maintained in years.
So there is no additional parking. It's all,
Yeah, it's
all
all
the
off-street
apartment parking is off-street parking in the city.
Correct.
It's a very,
And just like the church, if you went, I don't know if you've been out there, we've been working on this project since like September or October 2023. And so that was one of the requirements that we got up. We had to update the parking, put in new pavement. Right now the pavement is all deteriorated and gone. Also, you have the ADA requirements because of the sidewalks, parking. You have to make sure there are at least 4 parking stalls. So I can install that, do the paving, striping, and then maintain the area.
and isn't one of the things that's required, I think it's a USDA grant
Yes.
that's required, is that you have to have parking
Well, it has to be, in
For
compliance
this
with
facility.
the current standards.
and using city parking is not compliant. You have to have your own
Yes,
parking.
there's TDA, Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs standards, U.S. Department of Agriculture standards, and then there's also the normal lenders that are also involved in it that like to see sufficient parking for the residents that currently live at the property.
And
the
city parking, and then city parking there too, so it all kind of does still together.
And the culture that is developed around these parking spaces, it's understood to be used by the residents that currently live at the apartment complex. There's no commercial properties that are around it. It's a residential neighborhood, and that's who parks in these spots.
Isn't there a drain right there on the Wakefield Street side next to the apartments?
Yes,
Right.
sir. Yes.
That's where the utility, that's where we're gonna, basically we're granting back to the city, general utilities, and that's gonna maintain, that basically, it's also have the rights for all those underground pipes and stuff.
And we are going to be lifting and stabilizing the asphalt of the parking lot so that it drains off of the property onto the road into the ditch. That's part of our scope. exceed a 2% grade for ADHD.
This is the apartment complex that you approached the council to mention, I think, 22, 23.
14 months ago.
Because you're replying to a reduced grant to,
ADHD,
Right.
yes, sir.
Well, we started with staff, we basically started with staff in the center. We were starting the concept, and we were starting the application process, USDA.
you came to council and asked permission for you to proceed with this project.
With the,
Spent a little time.
yeah, we came to ask for permission to submit an application.
Correct,
And
yes.
so we have
Done now.
done that, we got the award, so we are at the finish line here, and this is literally the last thing that we need to accomplish in order for us to close.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any other questions or discussion? If not, do I have a motion for,
I'm going to go out of council making a motion that we abandon portions of East Winfield and South Travis Street pertaining to utilities.
second, we have a motion by Mr. Terrell, second by Mr. Lowry. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Okay, item number 22, ordinance abandoning an alley on Daniel Street.
Good evening. This was another item from last month that was tabled in regards to the alley that's on Daniel Street. As we mentioned last month, that this property, in order for it to be brought up to specs as far as what the ordinance calls for an R1, the request is to have that abandoned so they can meet the minimum 7,500 square foot requirements that we have. So we are requesting if we can go ahead and grant them the abandonment of that alley.
As we mentioned last month, I'm against giving them what for free. That's basically what they're requesting, is what we're doing with the improvements. Now, I'm not against the fact that probably the alley may not be used, but it doesn't belong to these five councilmen or the mayor or the city manager. It belongs to the public here. And I think it's wrong for us to give this stuff away free. And that's why we take it to the
My understanding, I haven't seen the underlying easement documents, but the city's interest would be as a utility easement above the adjacent property owners on the underlying fee of the land. So the city's only interest is the utility easement and the public purpose attachment, of that utility easement. So.
I'm afraid I'm gonna have to disagree with you.
That's fair. Like I said, I haven't seen the easement document.
I've received property from the city as an abandonment, but the city owned that property. They didn't have the easement. They owned the property. And I agree with Mr. Craig Terrell, that if we're gonna give property away, I think the citizens maybe ought to tar them feathers. But anyway, I think you should look into that a little bit though.
I'd be happy to.
I think it would
My
be,
understanding was this is a utility easement. The city doesn't know anything about the fee.
well, I'd like to know.
And this is part of the original planning of the city, and so, like a lot of our areas, this is a dedicated easement area, alleyway, this was an alleyway, not a road, but an alleyway easement that we have, on this piece of property.
So if it's dedicated in kind of the original plat, that dedication is going to come with public purpose attachment. And the reason I mention that is because that limits who you can, whatever interest there is in the land, that's going to limit who you can sell it. Because if you have an easement that says you can use this for a public purpose, well, there's only certain other entities that can do those public purposes, so you're going to be looking at governmental entities, utility companies. And at least from what I've seen, utility companies have also found an interest in maintaining this. And there aren't any other governmental entities that have it. So, in other words, to convey whatever interest in land you have to anyone other than the underlying property owners, you would have to get an appraisal, you'd have to get a survey,
reason that he's needing to have the alleyway abandoned is because the restrictions have changed on the subdivision, and you have to have 7,500 square feet. He has no access to his lots on the other side of his property, on the,
South Holly Avenue.
yeah,
There's a
on
South
the
Holly
area,
Avenue
because that
on
road's
the,
never been developed.
on the east side, that road has not been developed, and that's the only access to these properties. And so he's wanting to, basically all he wanted to do is turn the properties and replat to where they face Daniel Street, which is a currently paved road. And by us abandoning the alleyway, he can then object adjustments and make these two lots meet our 7,500 square foot criteria minimum for development.
I have a problem with the person wanting to develop and make something so they can live on it. If you remember, we had Mr. Scott Jones who wrote this a couple of years ago, and we have a abandoned alley over there by his clothes. I don't know where we stand on that, because he's given that permission, he's gonna pay him and use that, but I don't see things happen. And just recently, in 787, a couple of years ago, we were approached with that person, they wanted to abandon that. We give them permission to do that, haven't seen any activity on that, so.
We just had another alleyway abandoned for the health centers of Southeast Texas in February.
They bought all the property there on Lewis Street, is that correct?
They bought all the lots
Yes.
on both sides
Yes.
of that alleyway.
Right. And the alleyway didn't have any utilities in it.
No, and this doesn't have utilities down through the line,
Right.
below it either.
I do understand council's, concern with giving the property away without having them pay for it, but I will say that the development of the property will generate revenue that will come to the city because of the appraised value, the increase in the appraised value.
Correct. He's a developer that he's gonna build homes on both of these properties.
And that's
Yeah,
really
and
good, I
it's
think
got
that's
access to
fine.
them.
I'm for that, I'm not against that at all. And I'm glad that he's gonna combine these lots, even though Holly Street itself is not a through street. I just don't want the reputation of giving property away that's.
I know we had this discussion when we talked about the, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name, service station, is it
Field Depot.
Is it Field Depot? And I guarantee you, if that man was gonna develop that property, the money was gonna spend, paying a couple $1,000 for that was not gonna stop that project. And I don't know what stopped it, and he decided not to do it at all. But I just think we need to, and I have nothing with a man developing two houses on it. But, you know, can I close the alley behind me and use it for a garden? That's my point, is we can't just keep giving stuff away. And these people are developers, they know what it costs to do business. And I'm not saying it's gotta be like the gentleman needs the right to his property. We're not denying him that to do that, and they pay for that property.
Do you have any idea of what it would cost for us to do, like a survey, to meet some amounts, to be able to sell? If we were to,
Might be the alleyway.
yeah, two outlets, we have to do both sides, because on both,
Right.
both property owners, well, I guess we would have to do both property owners, we would do both property owners. If you sell it, you would have to do it to both, right, or would you still have to divide it between the two, in case?
Yeah, so if you're gonna abandon, it's gonna go to the middle line.
Right. But if you sell it, could you do the whole thing to one?
Or would they both have to, would both landowners have to?
Yeah, I mean, I'll double check that, I can't recall offhand, get the limitations on roadways, or if this is a utility easement, if that would fall into that.
So that's another thing, you know, having to survey one piece of property to be able to sell on one side, but if you have to do it, when you abandon, you have to split it in half and give it to both adjacent property owners. If you sell it, you have to do the same thing, but that would be two different surveys that you'd have to be able to do to be able to sell it. There's an expense, and I would be saying that by the time you do appraisals and surveys, your cost is probably gonna be more than what the alley's gonna be
We're gonna do
appraising.
Would that be fair to taxpayers, if we spend more money on sale?
And again, you're trying trying to be, we're wanting to be pro-development.
Yeah.
You know, and so if this encourages development and property, Fuel Depot, they are still in the process of doing design. I know that, Health Center Southeast Texas, they're in the process of utilizing their maintenance, so. I know the Joneses that was mentioned earlier, they're still, they haven't started, but they're still interested in planning on doing that development as well, so. We want to see new development coming to the city. We don't want to hinder people to be able to do that development.
And on the other end of this same block, the lots were turned the exact same way that this customer wants to do his, without the alleyway. By a different surveyor, they didn't put the alleyway in there. So, there's kind of a discrepancy there where it's surveyed wrong and the alleyway was never added into this. And it was granted to them to do the replat on it.
I think, you know, our goal should be to encourage development. You know, if it's gonna cost us more than deny somebody to buy property that we gonna get tax revenue off of, and just let it sit there, and we're not getting nothing off of it. So, you know, are we pro-development, or, you know? So, is there any other question, discussion?
I'm pro-development, I just don't like to get into what first. And, you know, you got a survey to do it, it costs $2,000, $10,000. Tell the man that's what it's gonna cost. So that's it, that's all for me.
Okay. Do I have a motion to, abandon the alley on Banner Street? Do I have a motion? Okay. No motion. So, I guess we can, kind of going forward, see if you can get some more information on that, concrete information. You know, we don't want to give anything away. I mean, if we're giving something away that's not of value, it's not, but that's just my opinion. But let's just, see if you can get some more concrete information on that. Maybe we'll come back and visit that, but if it's the pleasure of the council to, you know, leave it be, okay. So, we'll move on to item number 23. Tow trucks rate update. Is that me, Scott? Oh, Chief?
Mayor, council ordinance, there were some questions about some of the tow companies, whether they should be charging original fees that were in place for many years, or if the master plan now calls, master fee plan calls for a different value. In the new ordinance, Ms. Marian Powell recreated or helped us to design a new ordinance for tow trucks. There's reference to the fees that are charged by the city to them to operate within the city and to be on the city's rotation. The fees, as discussed here, the tow truck rates are mirrored by Liberty County, and we use the same rates that Liberty County uses, which is pretty much regulated by TDLR, Texas Department of License Regulations. This is posted at each sign at every storage lot, which is also storage facilities that are regulated by the TDLR. So the signs are posted so you know the value of your vehicle being towed, what it's going to cost for storage, the towing rate, if they use straps, chains, or whatever, the dollies, or whatever it takes to get the car recovered and taken to a storage lot. So our fees mirror Liberty County's fees, and if there's a change, we keep up with amendments, and they're ordered to do a study every other year, I think it is, that rate study, rate fee study for the area or what the state requires. But just wanted to clarify with all record companies that we do mirror, if it's a non-consent tow, say someone's arrested or something, no one has a question about what the fee should be. It's all fair and across the board, and it's the same fees that Liberty County charges throughout the county.
This is just a discussion item. Is there any questions that anyone might have for the chief on this? Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chief.
You bet.
Okay. Item number 24, city council meeting, dates. Scott?
Okay, so we've got 2 dates that we want to look for consideration, and so, one of the dates is our June council meeting. I have a state conference that I'll be at on June, or, traveling to on June 18th, so I won't be able to attend. That's through the schedule, so I want to see if we can move that to the June 11th date, which is just a week earlier to be able to be able to do that. And then also, we are still trying to schedule our annual council retreat. It's a full day retreat, and at this point, I believe June 17th, that Monday, is the date that seems to be working for everybody. We are looking at holding this at the Independent School District, the new admin building, using their conference rooms. And so we've been working with them, trying to get their schedules and all the council's schedules and everybody together. It's been very challenging. We were trying to do it in May if at all possible, so we could utilize the culinary kids to be able to provide the meal stuff for them, to be able to utilize that. Just none of the dates in May worked out, so we moved into June, and we went through many dates in June, and so it looks like June 17th. That Monday would be is the best day for everybody. We did contact the 3 candidates, since this would be for the new council, and so to see what dates they would be available, and so we're trying to get everybody in the challenge, but that's what this item is, just to see if we can get approval to move the June meeting to the 11th, and then also set June 17th as the council retreat day.
I would like to approve city council meeting dates, June 11th, for city council meeting and for June 17th, during council retreat.
Second. Okay, I have a motion by Ms. David for June 11th for the regular council meeting, and June 17th for the council retreat. Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Davis, and a second by Mr. Lowry. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. Okay, item number 25, text dot resolution for authorizing SIB loan application.
So in last month's council meeting, we, placed on the agenda that we place, relocation of a water line on 105 that's being required by TxDOT. At that time, it was estimated about $330,000 for the cost of repairs, and TxDOT could do the work, and we would, if the council gave the direction to get a SIB loan, which is a state infrastructure, through state infrastructure bank. Well, since last month's meeting and this month's meeting, there was an increase in the estimated cost from $330,000 to about $700,000 is the last number, correct?
Correct, and so, and this is one of those issues that, we were at 95%, it was at 330,000, at 100% it came in at 770. They had to add an extra area to accommodate the footings of a bridge, and they were trying to work around our existing water line, but wasn't able to, so they ended up having to move our water line out to accommodate that. Since that time, we've worked with Blake, who has worked with their third-party contract, or engineers. We really believe that that cost is going to be somewhere closer or less than $500,000, but working with TxDOT, they are still claiming that their estimate is going to remain at $770 at this point. It's just an estimate. And so the way this works is we work with three different groups. We're working with the engineering portion, we're working with a group for the advanced funding agreement that we have to have for funding the project, and then we also have to work with the SIB, the SIB, the State Infrastructure Bank Group to do that. And so the council directed us to move forward for applications so we could, kind of lock in our interest rate and everything. With our current interest rate that we would be able to obtain, at least, is less than what we are currently being charged, so our interest that we're receiving, so it made sense for us to do the loan. We have been able to work with the agreement group as well as the bank group to get them to agree that we are going to apply for a funding up to a dollar amount, but that we're not going to actually close on the loan until after the bids are brought in and we have an actual dollar amount. And so where the $900,000 has come up to is we're asking, or basically we're asking for you to do a resolution authorizing us to apply for up to $900,000. That's roughly the $770,000 that they have for the estimate now, plus a 20% contingency, because whatever we request the funding amount to be is the maximum that we can get. So if we ask for 700 and it comes in at 750, we're going to get the loan for 700. So we're asking for the 900 in case it gets that high, which we don't think. We're thinking it's probably going to be 400,000 to 500,000. We get approved for that amount. The bids come in. It comes in at 400,000, 500,000, and that's what we'll do the loan amount. And that's what will be done. But we don't want to go for 400,000 or 500,000, and they come in at 700, and then we have to come up with the other 200,000. So all it is basically authorizing you do the resolution. Pam will work with them and us to finalize the application. We'll get that submitted. Then their board, they have a board that they have to go through, will actually approve whether or not we can get the funding up to the 900,000. But then once we're approved, then it'll be kind of on hold until the bidding. The bidding is supposed to happen in August of this summer. And so by August, we should have those numbers back. At that point, we'll be able to close on that loan and move forward.
Okay, with all that explained, do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the SID loan application.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Lowry, and a second by Ms. Davis. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Okay, item number 26. Scott?
Hello, Council. I'm here for approval to amend our current policy on our mental health policy to be in compliance with House Bill 1486. Our current policy has our first responders at 5 days, and so we're trying to amend it from 5 days to 3 days, and then also implement an additional policy for all employees, including those responders, to have 2 days. So in total, those first responders will have 3 days with restrictions, and then on the other policy, they will have 2 days with no restrictions. And that information is in your packet.
If you remember the last council meeting, that was a concern, is that the way it was presented at the last council meeting was that the first responder policy that we currently have, which was just for the police, was adding dispatch and fire,
Correct.
but it's a 5-day with restrictions. And then we were adding a 2-day for non-first responders that would give them 2 days without question for mental health. And so the idea was, the request was from council that we allow everybody, all full-time employees to have two days, no questions asked, but then allow the first responders to have up to additional 3 days, meeting that certain criteria that's already set up in that policy. So that's kind of the way this is set up today.
Okay, do I hear a motion? Second. Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Davis. I have a second.
Tawan, Australian.
Oh, got a motion by Ms. Davis. Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Davis. I have a second by Mr. Ward. All those in favor? Okay, it's 2-2. Okay. Now, I will, yeah, I'm gonna vote. You know, this is something that I've thought about it, you know, a lot today, because I just found out that so, with everything that's going on, watching the news every day, it's high pressure. Everybody here, employees, from the people cutting the grass to the people cutting the checks, you know, I think the 2 days would, I think it'd be fair. So, motion carries. We do.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll go into executive session. The City of Cleveland Council reserves the right to adjourn into executive session at any time during this meeting to discuss an item on the agenda as authorized by Government Code 551071, consultation with attorney, deliberations, real property, gifts, donations, personal matters, liberation, security, and economic development. Okay, we'll now go to executive session at 7:25.
Remember, do all the, mute all of them.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll now convene back into open session. Do I have a motion for an executive session?
Yes, authorizing, let's see, executive session number 27. We are authorizing the city manager to proceed with the track number VFP TX LIB 0550-001, Liberty County, Texas. And also, number 28, we are authorizing the city manager to proceed with the negotiation of Texas funding versus City of Cleveland.
Second. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Ward and a second by Mr. Lowry. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Motion adjourned.
Got a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Go home.